Welcome to another episode of Not That Hard to Homeschool, the podcast for real people so that you can confidently, competently, and yes, even contentedly provide the high school education that is best for your teens and your family. I'm your host, Lisa Nehring from notthathardtohomeschool.com. Well, hey, everybody. I am super excited to have Brett Harris on the show today. It's not that hard to homeschool. We are here to help you realize that it is totally possible for you to homeschool your kids successfully. And Brett's here to show us how we can do it in a specific area. So Brett is the best-selling author of Do Hard Things and the co-founder of the Young Writers Workshop and the Author Conservatory. Do you mind if we start over? I am just doing way too much mumbling. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Lisa from It's Not That Hard to Homeschool, and I'm here with Brett Harris, who's the best-selling author of Do Hard Things and co-founder of the Young Writers Workshop and the Author Conservatory, which has trained thousands of writers since 2017. He's a personal mentor and coach for many of the world's top young writers and authors, and his mission is to raise up the next C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. Love that. You might know Brett Harris, author of the best-selling book, along with his brother Alex, Do Hard Things. But today, Brett is teaching budding young authors how to write. And the Author Conservatory is an online school where you learn how to write and pitch novels while also starting your own business ventures and earning money as an entrepreneur. Brett, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. You're muted.
Oh, my microphone wasn't working.
That's okay. Well, I think we can splice that. Let's jump in. Okay, Brett, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the show.
Lisa, it's such a joy to be here. And as a homeschool graduate, and there were 7 kids in our family, all homeschooled through high school, I really love the focus of not too hard to homeschool and the encouragement you're bringing to families. And I hope I can just add to that today.
Thank you so much. You know, I met your dad 29 years ago at a conference in Ohio. We had just had our third, who was a baby at the time, and we heard him speak about just how to homeschool and practical living, and it was so pragmatic. We really took a lot away from that, and so we've purchased your book and we've followed you, and so I had a chance to look at the Author Conservatory. And wow, I am so impressed. Can you just catch everybody up to date about what it is you're doing now?
Yeah, so my twin brother and I wrote a book called Do Hard Things, challenging young people that they can rebel against low expectations, that they can do so much more than society expects, so much more than our culture expects. And we look at history, we look at biblical standards for young people. We look around the world to be able to see that the standards have dropped so far in the last really 100 years for what teenagers and young adults can accomplish in their lives. And so that message really launched me as an author. But then the interesting thing that happened is a lot of our readers were young people who also wanted to write books, whether that be nonfiction, whether that be blog posts and articles, or in a lot of cases for this rising generation, it's storytelling, short stories, novels, fiction, screenwriting, telling these stories that we all know through people like C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and so many others shape culture, shape human hearts and minds, and shape our character. I grew up in a homeschool family that read aloud almost every night as a family, reading series like Little Britches, the Ralph Moody books, and that shaped my character and shaped my love of literature. And so I think what happened after Do Hard Things came out and over the ensuing years is this had so many young people coming to me saying, I want to be a writer, I want to be an author. How do you actually pursue that as a career? Because there's not a lot of college options that are targeted in that direction. You can go to school for English or in creative writing. You're not being taught how to write novels in the genre, in the marketplace. Maybe you're writing some short stories, maybe you're writing some, more literary fiction, but you're not writing the kind of genre fiction that sells to publishers and that sells, to readers. And so, there was just a lot of questions along those lines. And long story short, I also was a full-time caregiver for my new bride, Anna, as she was dealing with some really serious health issues,
Mhm.
needed a way to provide while also being a faithful and devoted caregiver and husband. And that's when I started thinking, well, maybe I could work with young writers because I'm really good at it. And they
Yeah.
all are coming to me asking for help.
Yeah, that's a great way to start a business when people are asking you for your expertise. Wow, this could be really something that's going to be useful in the world. So how many young writers have you helped?
Yeah, I think we are closing in on about 3,500 writers that we've served through our programs over the last now 6+ years.
Wow.
We have currently around 200 students in our college level program, the Author Conservatory. We also have about 1,000 students in our high school program currently, the Young Writers Workshop.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so young writers who are in high school can start with your program. We get that all the time over at True North Homeschool Academy. We have a couple novel writing classes, and we get questions all the time about how to do that. I love that because if your kid is going to college, having written a novel is a great standout factor as far as scholarship dollars and that kind of thing. So it's a great way to invest, in my opinion, if you have a kid who's just really motivated. So what do you do with a high school level writer who wants to write a novel before they graduate? Is that possible and still get other classes done?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have hundreds of students in our programs who have written not just a novel, but multiple novels before they graduate high school. And it is a massive driver in their self-motivation, in their ability to get their homework done so they can spend more time on
Yeah.
their writing and things like that. And so it is absolutely possible. And you're right, it's a huge standout because we're talking about at minimum 50,000 word
Yeah.
writing project, maybe 80,000 words, maybe 100,000 words. I mean, this is like writing a master's thesis,
Yes.
as a high schooler. This is a huge writing project, bigger than most any project you'll ever complete in your more conventional education.
Yeah.
And it requires tremendous discipline and tremendous self-motivation to write something of that length. So absolutely, it's a huge way to stand out to
Yeah.
colleges, but also it's just huge at character development, learning perseverance, learning to keep going in the middle of something when it's you get into the slog. So
Yep.
I think there's so many benefits to young people being encouraged to pursue their delight and their enthusiasm for storytelling and to tackle these sorts of large projects.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it really is you are really are teaching people to rebel against mediocrity. I mean, you haven't changed your mission really in
No,
so many ways.
no, exactly. This is a specific arena of writing and publishing where again, most people don't expect a teenager to write an 80,000 word book, but we just had a student in our program write 186,000 word book,
Wow.
turn it into a massive Christian awards program through ACFW and win their first impressions contest as a 16-year-old competing against many authors, 2, 3, 4 times her age.
That's fantastic.
And so it's really incredible. And that's the kind of thing that looks
Yeah.
really good on your resume, whatever you go on to do after that.
That is so exciting. I think that's really encouraging too, because if you look at the news, you hear so much negative conversation about Gen Z. I think that's the name of this generation about how they're lazy and unmotivated, and really they're looking for a purpose and a mission. And this is a great way to direct your kids, as if they have any interest in writing, help them get this idea that they can literally write a novel before they graduate from high school.
Yeah. And I just think that more and more we're recognizing that whether it's politics or any of the kind of things we want to see shift in our country and our world, that really those things are downstream from culture. And it's the stories we tell that shape our culture. And young people, Gen Z, I think they really recognize the power of storytelling and how stories, whether it's the latest, show that's going up on a streaming platform, whether it's a big movie, or whether it's the next big novel or series, these stories, and of course those all interplay. The novel
Yeah,
turns
yeah,
into
yeah,
the movie, into the
yeah.
Netflix series, and all of that. But they're seeing the interplay. And then what's also really interesting for me as a business owner, CEO, is recognizing how many businesses and organizations are seeing storytelling skills as a incredibly valuable part of marketing, of
Yeah.
having a clear message, of branding. And so you have everything from presidential campaigns to the White House to massive, Fortune 500 companies who are employing novelists and storytellers to help them tell a good story
Mhm.
about their brand. And so again, just important skills from an impact standpoint and important skills from a career preparation standpoint that can help you stand out.
Exactly. I want to spend a few minutes talking about your college level program. I love it so much. You really focus on entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship is becoming so important. A lot of colleges are starting to require it as a gen ed. As we go, we're part of a fourth industrial revolution, and we're in this time of societal disruption. Entrepreneurial skills are just more important than ever before, regardless of regardless of if you are an entrepreneur or not. So how did you come up with this concept of, I mean, it's kind of like you're teaching these kids or young people two skills at one time. You're teaching them how to really write, you're giving them technical skills, and you're giving them entrepreneurial skills. Where did this come from?
Yeah, well, honestly, it comes from the myth of the starving artist. The classic joke is how do you get rid of a English major who shows up on your porch, and it's pay for the pizza. you know there's this sense, and
Yes.
not without any justification, not without any evidence, that you pursue a career in the arts, you pursue being a writer, and you're not going to be able to pay your bills. And so we have a no starving artist policy. So we're teaching our students not only how to write the next great novel and to really know what makes a marketable, powerful concept for a story, as well as how to pitch it, but also how to have business skills, to value themselves, value their time, be able to get paid, be able to provide for themselves. So we say you can pursue your dreams, but you also have to be a responsible adult who can pay their bills. And
Yes.
so pulling those two together. But the other layer of it, Lisa, is that to be a successful author, you can't just be a good writer. And I think we all know this intuitively, that just being the best at the technical skill of your industry is not enough to be successful if you also don't have business skills, you don't understand the money side of things. And then the third pillar that we also focus on is people skills. So you always have the technical skills, the business skills or money skills, and the people skills. And if we can train young people to be strong in all three areas, that's where they are almost guaranteed to never be a starving artist. And so that's really our goal. And you need to be able to sell books.
Yeah.
Authors are entrepreneurs. They have to sell their product to the end user.
Yeah.
And publishers are not doing nearly as much marketing as a lot of people assume they are.
Yeah.
And so we're really training them, not just entrepreneurship for its own sake, though I'm a big advocate for that, but because this is actually a prerequisite
Yeah.
for being able to have a sustainable career and support yourself as an author.
Exactly. I think Aragon got started. The author for that is Paoli, I think
Yeah,
Paolini.
Christopher Paolini.
Yes,
Yes.
he started by selling his books at flea markets in California, and then he got picked up by a publisher that way. But everything I've heard from people that I know who have gotten picked up by big publishers, they already have an online presence. They're doing a lot of promotion on their own, and a lot of big publishing houses aren't picking up people unless they see the author doing that already. So I think this approach is so very important. And I love that, like, no starving artist policy. That's that's phenomenal. We actually have some friends who are artists and they do very well. So I think if you can pull it all together, this is just a great platform for kids to learn life skills.
Well, one of the things that I've observed is a lot of our most gifted young people who could be our best, who could be our next C.S. Lewis, our next J.R.R. Tolkien. They are also really smart and they're practical, and they end up pursuing other things that are more likely to provide.
Yes.
And so if we want the best of our young people to be going into the arena of culture shaping and storytelling, we have to provide a path where they know that's also a smart path. They're
Yeah.
not being stupid. They're going to be able to provide for themselves. They're going to be able to do well for themselves by doing good. And so our mission really is to bring those two pieces together where we can say, hey, we'll give you the highest level writing training, professional feedback from award-winning authors.
Mhm.
professional editors, you're interacting with agents, you're interacting with publishers, you're getting all these opportunities, but we're also going to make sure that you have a financial plan and a career plan that you and your parents can feel really confident in, rather than, I'm just going to write my book and hope
Yeah, right,
something
right.
happens.
Yeah, that's so practical. I used to teach creative writing for quite a while. 53% of authors only work full time as an author. Only 53%. So there's only a few Stephen Kings in the world who work full time as authors, right? And even really well known Ian Dozier, I interviewed him several years ago. He did the Star Wars smash up with Shakespeare. So brilliant. He works full time. And then he writes at 5 a.m. Right. So I think that's the way you're approaching it is we do need culture changers, and we do need people who can really write the things and write the speeches and the plays and the screenwriting stuff, but they also have to be able to support themselves. It's such an important piece of it. Um, have you found any future C.S. Lewis's or J.R. Tolkien's yet?
Well, I do like to explain that as much as that, I think saying this is our mission, it helps people get what we're trying to do. We're not trying to make our students be C.S. Lewis
Yeah.
or Tolkien, right? They are themselves, and they're going to
Yes.
have their own unique
Yeah.
impact and their unique calling that the Lord has put on them and on their stories. So we're not trying to force anyone into that mold, but I think the idea of we all can recognize the value and the impact that Lewis and Tolkien and others, in that group, the Inklings, that
Yeah.
they've had on our own lives, our spiritual lives, our character formation, our culture, and we want more of that.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to do. But yes, I mean, we have some incredible young authors that have come up through our program. One of our students who's preparing to graduate from the Conservatory this June, we're having our in-person graduation ceremony on the campus of Wheaton College, not affiliated, but that's where it's happening. So it's a really beautiful location. But one of our graduates, her name is Anna Rose Johnson, and she is in her early 20s. Her debut novel came out from a New York City children's book publisher called Holiday House. It's called The Star That Always Stays. And her stories they're in the vein of Anne of Green Gables and Little Women, right? They have that nostalgia of these old classic favorites. They're
Yeah.
sweet and gentle while still being honest and real about the hardships of life. And this first novel, it won the NPR Best Book of 2022. It won the Amplify Award for Christian Fiction from the Christie Awards.
Wow.
It was a finalist in the New York Federalist Historical Society Awards. I mean, it's
That's
just done
exciting.
incredibly well.
Yeah.
She signed a second book deal with Holiday House, now a third book deal. Her next book's coming out this year. And she's, again, early 20s.
Yeah.
She's supporting herself, getting paid by publishers to publish novels. They're being very successful. And she's just preparing to graduate our program in June.
Super, super exciting. That there's so much hope for the future, right? Like I'm super excited to hear about that. And such quality materials. I think there's so much commonness now in some of the fiction that we have available for teens. I mean, it's just so it doesn't lift people up. So to hear about stuff like this is just so exciting that there are people who are writing really great works of fiction that are based on truth, beauty, and goodness. We need that in the world. What are you hoping for the author conservatory in the future? I mean, are you looking to expand? You want thousands of students to go through it? Well, and before we get to that question, I want to back up a little bit. I mean, in the Not That Hard to Homeschool Facebook group, we have conversations all the time about college costs, financial costs, but also social costs. Is it really worth it anymore? And I've worked in higher ed for years, and I've seen really a big shift since 2020. Have you noticed a shift in students or what people are looking for post high school? I feel like this is a good solution for that. But what are your thoughts about all of that? And that's really a broad thing to throw at you.
Yeah. Well, honestly, this is a topic I'm very passionate about. I've done a fair bit of reading and research and try to stay up on the trends. We absolutely see a massive shift away from traditional college for the expense, for social costs, like you said, and also just practically for not feeling like it's adequately preparing students for the real world and for careers. And
Mhm.
so there's an increased emphasis on trade schools, increased emphasis on apprenticeship models,
Yeah.
and alternative, certificate programs. And so, we really see ourselves in that category. It's an apprenticeship, career trade school,
Yep.
certificate program is what we're offering.
Okay.
And so we're absolutely seeing so many young people come to us looking for that and saying, this is just what we wanted. We've looked at all the college writing programs. None of them provided what we know we need. And this is everything we're looking for and more that we hadn't realized we needed, but like the business training, the entrepreneurship piece. So I think that we're absolutely seeing that. And ultimately, I think, I'm just going to cut right to the chase, Lisa. I think there's been a lot of misinformation and manipulation of data to make the argument that going to college is always worth it. And I'm sure most parents are familiar with the statistics that say something like, if you had a bachelor's degree, you're going to make $17,000 more on average, than someone with just a high school diploma, or you're going to make 1.2 million or 1.6 million more in your lifetime.
Yes.
And you have to ask, so who's promoting these statistics? Well, it's the colleges and it's the media. But I've taken the time to actually go and look at the source of this data, the organizations that are actually putting this out. And and the New York Fed is one of those major sources. And there's also been massive reviews of over 20 studies on college, graduate earnings versus high school graduate earnings. And what you find is people saying the causal connection between going to college and earning more money is not clear. We can say that people who graduate college earn more money. We can't say whether the college degree had anything to do with that, because what we can look at doesn't tell us if there were other hidden factors, hidden aptitudes, hidden advantages, hidden support systems that are actually accounting for that difference. And what really kind of was the nail in the coffin for me on this argument that, go to college because then you'll make more money and you'll have a secure future, is I was reading a book called College Unbound. It's by a former editor of the Chronicle of Higher Education. So a guy who knows what he's talking about. But he said that the statistics currently are that 82% of students from families in the highest income bracket attend college and earn a bachelor's degree. 8% of students in the lowest income brackets attend college and earn a college degree. So when we're doing these studies to say, college graduates earn more money, what we're really saying is students from wealthy families earn more money in their lifetime than students from poor families.
Right.
And so, the argument of, and so this, for all of the families in your audience who love their kids, are investing in them, investing in giving them the best education they can, I think the argument that a lot of very smart people, including people in the world of higher education, are making is that it's actually that support system.
Yeah.
It's the good education and foundation they had in life through their family. It's the fact that they have a family that would send them to college, that would pay for college, that believe in them. They're not coming from, a home where no one cares about education, where, people are shooting them down and saying, you can't ever be anything, right? That's what makes the difference. And so if you take a kid, a young person who's self-motivated, who has that good foundation, who has that family support, and you let them pursue what God's calling them to do, whether it's to go to college and get a degree because that's necessary for what they want to do, or a trade school, apprenticeship, just going straight into it, starting a business out of high school, that kid is going to do better and earn more than many college graduates, or will at least be on the same level as college graduates, because it wasn't the degree that made the difference. The degree is just an indicator that there's a level of support and advantage behind these students. So that's a whole, maybe more than you were looking for.
No,
but
no,
I
that's
really
perfect.
I think that we're starting to see the reality that college has promised this outcome. But I have so many peers who went to college, can't get a job, after they graduate, certainly can't get a job in the field they went to school for. And at the same time, I have a twin brother who went to Harvard Law School and clerked for the Supreme Court. And I'm a big advocate for education and college if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, an engineer, some of these things. So
Yes. Some degree, some professions require it. I mean, if you're going to be an MD, you
Yeah,
need to go to med school.
absolutely.
But I love the fact that your program actually pairs, what the kids want to do, write books, fiction or nonfiction, with a path to make that possible. And I think that's really where colleges are falling down right now. Is when I went to college, it was about getting a liberal arts degree generally. I mean, some people went into STEM and that kind of thing, but you got a liberal arts degree and you knew how to think at the end of your program. And you knew how to solve problems. Like you graduated, you figured out what you're going to do with yourself vocationally. But I feel like that liberal arts firm foundation is eroded away. Now looking at programs, it's just, wow, there's a lot of fluff as your little pet goes by
Yes.
in the program. So I love that you're really practical in how you're approaching this. Let me ask you a question. As far as like kids who come into the program, do they need to be like really super motivated to write the next great American novel? Or are you taking people, because I saw you had an application form. Are you taking kids who are like, I like to write. I'm not really sure where I want to be at the end, but this might be a good thing to do since I'm not really clear about what to do next?
Yeah. So for the author conservatory, our college level program, which we do accept students in high school.
Okay.
We've even accepted a few 14-year-old prodigies.
Okay. Yep.
But mostly, probably 16 and up. But for a college level program, we are very selective. So for those who apply, we extend an invitation to enroll to maybe, one out of four.
Okay.
So we're not inviting everyone. And one of the things we're really screening for is that self-motivation. They need to know that they want to do this. They need to know they want to pursue it as a career.
Mhm.
It's not just maybe I'll see.
Yeah.
That said, our other program, the Young Writers Workshop, which we call our high school program, but we let students stay in there until 25. So, we have students in their teen years and then students into their early 20s. And that is a great program for the young person who I think I like writing. I've never actually finished something. I want to explore this. I want to get to know other writers. I want some training. I'm not sure what role I want it to play in my life long term. That's a much better place for that hobby writer or that exploratory writer.
Yeah.
And then once we get to the conservatory, we're really looking for the kids, the young adults who know this is what they want to do and have that self-motivation. We're very much selective in that program.
Yeah, awesome. And tell me about cost. Do you mind sharing at least general ideas of cost for parents as they're looking at this? Do you take federal aid, all those kind of things?
Yeah, so we don't take federal aid. Our tuition, we do adjust it each year. And so, I don't want to give an outdated number, but it is about comparable to what you would pay for in-state tuition, but it's a 3-year program, not a 4-year program.
Okay.
In addition to that, we've designed it so that the workload is compatible with working part-time, so that you could really, like you used to be able to do with college, and you can't anymore.
Right.
You could work part-time and pay your way through school and graduate, no debt, and actually have made some money. We also have a number of students who have already earned back their whole tuition and more just through the business ventures they've started and the money they're earning through the entrepreneurship training. And so we're not only, compatible with working part-time, but we're also working some of those students out of their part-time job where they might be making $15 or $16 an hour. And now they're running a business where they're making 40, 50, 80. We even have students making over $100 an hour with their business ventures because they're designed to be efficient. And so, all that to say, it is a significant investment because we believe it's the best program out there for a young person who wants to become an author and support themselves. And we're hiring and paying really qualified people to work with them. But it is absolutely financially affordable to be able to save up for in a year if a student wants to work and save. And then once you're in, you could work your way through with a regular part-time job at minimum wage and still have time for your studies.
Yeah, I love it. So it's really practical. It really sounds very, very practical. And I love your website. It's very easy to navigate. It answers a lot of questions. You can see who's working with you. You really do have quality people on your program. Kudos. You've created something really amazing. And you just started in 2017, right?
Yeah. Well, the conservatory just started in 2020, and so we have our first graduating class this June. So
At
yeah,
we.
yeah, at Wheaton. Again, no affiliation, but except that they're letting us
Yeah,
use
fantastic.
their campus for that. So
Yeah, well, congratulations on another really successful venture. What do you want to share with parents who are homeschooling their kids, especially those parents whose kids are in high school and they're really trying to sort out like this kind of unique, disrupted world we live in? What do you have to say to those parents?
yeah, I think my biggest encouragement that my parents provided for me and my siblings was what my dad would call delight directed study, and
Yeah.
he would give the encouragement, let them run with their delights and do not hinder them.
Mm,
And so if you have a child who is interested in something, and it's going to be as simple as the little kid who's like, look, mommy, another horse,
yeah.
right? Take that and use that interest and that self-motivation as a locomotive engine to pull a lot of other things along. Because if a kid is into horses, there's history of horses, there's science of horses, there's writing about horses, there's reading about horses. It's all there, right?
Yeah.
And so just being able to use those delights, and it doesn't all even have to be specifically academic and like, oh, how do we attach our
Yeah.
schooling to it? But simply making space and making time for the things that your child is excited about.
Mhm.
Because one of the things I think we're observing is that it is the young people who have a special love and a special passion and who are able to really pursue it and achieve a level of excellence at a young age who are going on to have very successful careers, and the young people who are just look great on paper because they, oh yeah, how many extracurriculars can I do, how many things can I put that look, again, look good on paper.
Mhm.
It ends up being a bit of a paper tiger
Yeah.
where when it comes to real life, trying to carve out a space for yourself in the world, trying to put food on the table, you don't have any skill that's marketable, that you're actually
Mhm.
good enough at to compete
Yeah.
with other people in the marketplace. And so, my parents did a great job of letting us pursue the things we were good at and the things we loved and the things we were excited about, to the point that we actually were able to support ourselves doing it once we hit adulthood. And I don't want to make it all about making money and supporting yourself, because that's not the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
But for homeschooling parents, I would just say, let them run with their delights. I don't think you will ever regret investing in what your child is excited about. My dad would say, don't throw a log on a spark, right? Don't overreact
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
But when a child shows an aptitude, shows an excitement, shows a motivation,
Mhm.
you're going to need to carve out space for that, whether that's helping them save time on their other schooling, whether that's, you know, not having them sign up for so many other extracurriculars, whether it's investing in some industry standard tools. I mean, you read about the author of Little Women, and how her father let her write on the walls,
Mhm.
right? He gave her a room to write
Yeah.
in their house, and her sister, who was an artist, got to draw on the wallpaper.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect, beautiful picture of a parent making space for what their kids are into. And I just think that that's easier than picking the perfect curriculum and doing all the things and keeping up with the Joneses. Just listen to your kids, observe what gets them excited, and then
Mhm.
make space for it in your
Yeah, I
lives.
love that. You know, you in that you bring up at a point I just want to hammer home. If your kids are on a technological device all the time, they might not have room in their brain to really come up with things that delight them. So I just want to, just make space for your kids to be bored a little bit.
Yes, amen. That's something that my dad and I love to talk about, the importance of boredom,
Yeah.
because yeah, it's true. So many young people don't have something they're excited about, because their brain chemistry is being hijacked by artificial cheap dopamine in
Yep.
the form of screens.
Yes. Yeah. We could do a whole episode on that, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But this has been delightful, Brett. I am so excited to kind of catch up with you. I've followed your family for years, and you've made an impact on our lives. And I know in one of our other groups, we just had a whole discussion about what are books you want your teen boys in particular to read, and Do Hard Things was the #1 book suggested. So it's still so
Wow.
relevant today. Thank you for being faithful to follow the delights and calling in your life. It's blessed many, many people. So I just appreciate you, Brett, and thank you for taking the time to do this podcast with us. I will put links in the show notes so people can find where you're at, find the Author Conservatory. Great work there. I am super impressed. And hopefully we'll make time in the future to do another catch up later on what you're doing and the great things you continue to do. So
Wow.
I
Thank
really
you so
appreciate it.
much, Lisa. And thank you for the work you are doing to encourage homeschool families and educate young people with excellence. Just love so much of what I've seen from you as well and the innovation.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fun to talk, and we'll have to do this again.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, you guys, check the show notes. We've got stuff for you there, and we will see you next time on It's Not That Hard to Homeschool.